Ryan's office revenge.
We're terminating you effective immediately. Security will escort you out. Brooke Campbell said it without even looking up from her brand new company-issued laptop. Still halfway through logging into her Slack account for the first time, the CEO's daughter-in-law, day 1, hour 1. Me, no handshake, no explanation. Just a trembling junior HR rep standing behind her, like he was watching someone defuse a bomb with a butter knife. I'm Wade Parker, 49 years old, and I'd been keeping this place running for 23 years, built every process they used, solved every crisis they'd faced. But here I was, getting the boot from someone who probably couldn't find the factory floor without a GPS. The ink on her onboarding paperwork was still wet, and she was already swinging the axe. She had her blonde hair in some kind of power ponytail, her MBA diploma probably still warm from the printer, and that startup confidence that comes from reading too many business blogs. She didn't ask questions, she didn't even blink, just read the termination notice off her iPad, word for word. Someone had coached her, probably her husband or her father-in-law, maybe both. I didn't flinch, I didn't argue. After 23 years of keeping this operation afloat, you learn when to stay calm under pressure. I stood up, adjusted my cufflinks, old habit when things get tense, and handed over my badge with the kind of steady hand you develop after decades of handling tough situations. She thought she was getting rid of dead weight. What she didn't know was that she just pulled a pin on a grenade I'd built into the company structure 15 years ago. I want to handle this transition the right way, I said, keeping my voice level. Tell Oliver the emergency board meeting in 3 hours should be real educational. Then I walked out, past the confused HR rep, past the security guard who looked more puzzled than concerned, past the framed photo of the founding family in the lobby. Funny thing about that photo, it left out the guy who actually designed the business framework they'd built their fortune on. That would be me. See, I'd learned something important over the years. My wife Sarah used to tell me I worked too much, sacrificed too much for people who didn't appreciate it. She was right, but she didn't understand the bigger picture. Every late night, every weekend fixing problems, every time I chose the company over family dinner, it wasn't just loyalty, it was investment, building something they couldn't take away from me. Now, 3 hours. That's how much time she had between her first executive decision and her first major screw-up. I imagine she celebrated, maybe opened that bottle of champagne they keep for big company milestones, maybe started drafting one of those LinkedIn posts about making tough calls for sustainable growth. She probably already had the hashtags ready to go. Meanwhile, the board emergency package had already gone out. Clause 17C, labeled simply Executive Authority Emergency Override, buried in the original shareholder agreement like an insurance policy nobody expected to need. Written by yours truly, reviewed by our lawyers, signed by every investor who ever asked what happens if leadership makes dangerous decisions. The answer? If someone gets fired without board approval, and that firing comes from an appointee with no actual ownership stake, then that appointee loses all temporary authority. The board has to meet within the day. Control goes back to the majority owner, me, because while she was picking out new office decorations, I was filing the clause activation. Dated, time-stamped, notarized, and hand-delivered to every board member, investor, and company lawyer connected to this business. Unlike her welcome packet, mine came with legal receipts. She thought I'd disappear quietly. What she didn't understand was that I never built this company to show off. I built it to protect myself from people exactly like her, Meinstold. Impatient-handed power like it came with the family password. There's a reason my name doesn't show up in the company brochures or on the Meet Our Team page. I was the guy behind the scenes, the one who actually kept things running, the person you called when everything was falling apart and the accountants were asking hard questions. I never wanted the spotlight. I wanted security, stability, and ownership. Real ownership. While they were naming meeting rooms after the founders' relatives and giving awards to people who'd been here less than 2 years, I was taking my bonuses in company stock. A percentage here, another percentage there. Ownership, not salary bumps. Voting shares, not fancy titles. Every time we landed a big contract or survived a rough patch, I negotiated another piece of the pie, quietly, carefully. It started back when Apex Manufacturing was just 2 card tables, a whiteboard, and a founder who treated cash flow like a suggestion. Oliver Hayes was a dreamer, sure, but the kind who couldn't remember if we'd paid the rent or accidentally sent 6 figures to the wrong supplier. I stepped in, straightened out the mess, stabilized the books, and locked down our contracts. For my trouble, he offered me a VP title. I said no thanks. Asked for stock instead. You'd rather own a piece of the pie than manage the kitchen, he laughed. Exactly right. By year 5, I owned 18%. By year 12, that was up to 34%. When our CFO quit in a nasty dispute over budget priorities, I bought his shares at a discount. His divorce lawyer needed quick cash, and I was there with an offer. Then 2008 hit. The financial crisis slammed our industry like a freight train. Half our competitors went under for good. Oliver was ready to declare bankruptcy, sell off everything, and shut down the whole show. I had a different plan. I took every dollar I'd saved over 2 decades, mortgaged my house, maxed out every credit line I could get my hands on, and bought the company's debt from the banks at 30 cents on the dollar. Not as some hostile takeover, as a rescue mission. Kept all 125 people employed, maintained every contract, preserved everything we'd built together. Sarah thought I'd lost my mind. You're risking everything we have for people who will forget your name in 5 years, she said. She wasn't wrong about the risk, but she didn't see what I saw, an opportunity to own what I'd been building all along. When things stabilized in 2010, that debt converted to equity. Another 17% of the company, 51% total, majority control, filed quietly with the state. And built into that ownership structure was Clause 17C, a little safety net nobody bothered to read because we'd never needed it until today. What Brooke didn't learn in business school is that inheriting a title doesn't mean inheriting real power. Power isn't in your email signature or your parking spot. It's in the contracts, the fine print, the safeguards written during late-night crisis meetings with nervous investors who wanted to know what would happen if someone's unqualified relative got promoted. Turns out it works exactly like this. One unauthorized firing, no board approval, no documented reason, no proper process. Just a consultant with fresh credentials marching into my operation, like she was upgrading a system she'd never learned to run. She had no clue that by executing that termination, she'd triggered a corporate failsafe that had been sitting dormant for 15 years, just waiting for someone to make exactly this kind of mistake. Now the clause was active. I didn't just send the activation notice. I sent a complete legal package. Ownership documents, equity breakdown, archived board approvals, time-stamped records, notarized copies, even included her termination memo with all its spelling errors and HR signature. While she was figuring out how to order new office supplies and trying to access computer systems she didn't understand, the board was reading a document titled Immediate Executive Authority Suspension, Clause 17C Activation. The reaction wasn't immediate. It was worse. It was that slow-building panic when you realize you're not looking at a small problem. You're looking at a complete disaster, and you just haven't gotten the full scope yet. By the time Oliver's personal lawyer read the key phrase suspension of executive authority upon unauthorized termination by non-equity appointee, he actually said out loud, "Oh hell." Oh hell no. The packet also included a mandatory requirement, emergency board meeting within 3 hours. That countdown was already running. Oliver was on hole 7 at the country club when his phone started buzzing. First call, ignored. Second call, same thing. The third time his lawyer's number came up, urgent and persistent, he dropped his golf club and answered. This better be important. You need to get back to the office right now, the voice said. Your daughter-in-law just stepped in something. We have a major situation. What kind of situation? The kind where you need to see the paperwork in person. Click. He didn't finish his game. Made it back to headquarters in under 20 minutes, which was a personal record for someone who usually needed help finding his own parking space. The lawyer was waiting. So was our CFO, one very nervous assistant, and a conference room full of people who suddenly weren't making eye contact with anyone. The general counsel didn't waste time. Just opened his briefcase, took a deep breath, and read, per Clause 17C of the amended shareholder agreement. Any executive termination carried out by a non-equity appointee without prior board authorization shall result in immediate revocation of all interim leadership authority and automatic transfer of executive control to the majority shareholder pending emergency board review. Oliver just sat there, looked like someone had unplugged his brain and forgotten to plug it back in. Who signed off on the termination? He asked. Dead silence. Who signed off on the termination? Louder now, more desperate. The CFO cleared his throat. Your daughter-in-law, acting alone. The quiet in that room was absolute. Oliver blinked once, slow, then again. The color drained out of his face like someone had opened a valve. She doesn't have signing authority, he said, like saying it could somehow undo what had already been done. No, the attorney confirmed, she doesn't. She was appointed CSO by board recommendation, but she holds zero equity. Her authority is entirely borrowed, which means under Clause 17C, her solo termination of a corporate officer is unauthorized and legally void. Oliver put his head in his hands. This is a misunderstanding. I'll talk to her. We'll fix this. The lawyer didn't let him finish. There's no fixing this. The clause is triggered. Documentation was filed before the termination happened, time-stamped, notarized, and sent to every stakeholder. You have 75 minutes until the emergency meeting starts. But she's family. Oliver tried weakly. She's not shareholding family, the attorney shot back. And right now, she's sitting in Wade Parker's old office trying to access financial systems that are way above her clearance level. Oliver slumped in his chair like someone had let all the air out of him. No longer the confident boss of a $180 million operation, just an old man who realized he'd handed the keys to someone who thought the locks were decorative. Where is she now? He whispered, probably writing a company-wide email about new operational efficiency standards. The CFO said dryly. Oliver looked up with desperate eyes. What do we do? The general counsel closed his briefcase. You sit in that boardroom. You listen. You don't interrupt. And when Wade Parker walks in, because he will walk in, you remember that he owns 51% of this company and has been running it since before she graduated high school. As Oliver stood up, moving like a man twice his age, you could see the truth finally downloading. He never actually gave me power. I'd been quietly collecting it, one careful move at a time, for over 2 decades. Meanwhile, Brooke was having the time of her life. The first thing she did after signing my termination papers, before the coffee even finished brewing, was send a company-wide message. Please deactivate all access for Wade Parker. Immediate security lockout. Full account review. No thanks, no explanation, just corporate orders typed with perfectly manicured nails. She probably thought she was making history. Maybe she'd already planned her LinkedIn post about decisive leadership and tough calls. She even added a smiley face emoji to soften the message. Like cute graphics could cover up legal landmines. Mason Cooper, our IT director, saw the message at 9:22 a.m. He stared at it, then at his computer screen, then at the real employee database. Not the pretty dashboard they show to executives, but the actual nuts and bolts system. And right there in plain text, Primary Administrator, Wade Parker. Compliance Authority, Wade Parker. Legal Digital Signatory, minus Wade Parker. Shareholder Registry Access, Wade Parker. Equity Control, minus 51.2%, minus Wade Parker. Mason didn't freeze my accounts. He didn't lock me out. He didn't even reply to her message. Instead, he walked his laptop straight to legal, set it down gentle as a live bomb, and said, she wants me to cut off the guy who still owns the place. If I deactivate him, we lose access to half our compliance systems, our investor portals, the SEC filing interface, and the shareholder records. Legal didn't even look up. Don't touch anything. 10 minutes later, Brooke strolled past the IT office like she owned the building. Mason said nothing. Legal said even less. The whole place had gone quiet, like a hospital before they deliver bad news. Back in her borrowed office, she went back to drafting her victory post. Today, I made my first strategic decision as Chief Strategy Officer. Leadership means prioritizing company health. Even when it's uncomfortable, I'm proud of our new direction. She stared at the cursor, added another line. A new chapter begins, but something felt off. Her inbox had gone dead quiet. No congratulations from the board, no welcome messages from department heads. And she noticed something weird about her computer dashboard. All the voting metrics and operational displays that usually showed company data were grayed out, like someone had flipped a switch she didn't know existed. She tried accessing the company financial reports. Error message. She tried approving her own expense account. Request denied. She tried sending a leadership announcement through internal communications. Access blocked. The computer systems weren't broken. They were rejecting her. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message from our lead investor. What's happening over there? I thought Parker was bulletproof. She read it twice, mouth going dry. Lead investor, the guy who personally flew out from Chicago last year to ask me to help close a major deal. Bulletproof. That word wasn't about her. It was about the man she'd just tried to erase from the company roster. The same man whose name was still listed as primary authority on every system she was trying to access. She looked at her half-finished LinkedIn post, backspaced the whole thing. left it sitting in drafts. She didn't even close the window, just stared at the empty text box with one hand frozen on her mouse. The boardroom was already packed by the time she showed up. The kind of packed that doesn't leave room for small talk. Just nervous energy, shuffled papers, and water glasses sweating in the air conditioning. She walked in wearing a cream-colored power suit that had never seen a real crisis, carrying her leather portfolio like armor. "Good afternoon, everyone," she said, moving toward the head of the table like she'd been doing this for years. Drew Peterson, our board chairman, old-school manufacturing guy with hands like steel and a memory that never forgot a contract detail, cleared his throat. "You're welcome to observe," he said flatly, "but that seat's taken." She stopped mid-stride. Taken by who? Reid Thompson, our general counsel, answered from across the table. "Per Clause 17C of the shareholder agreement, your appointment as Chief Strategy Officer has been suspended pending shareholder review." "Suspended?" Her voice got smaller. "Voided," Reid repeated. "You held no equity and your appointment wasn't properly ratified. The termination you authorized was outside your authority. Under the clause, all executive powers granted to you have been revoked." She looked around the room for backup. Oliver stared at his hands like they held answers to questions he should have asked 15 years ago. Her husband, sitting near the back, was trying to disappear into his chair. "I don't understand this clause thing," she said. "Nobody's ever mentioned it before." "It's in effect now," the legal advisor said, adjusting his glasses. "Properly triggered with full documentation this morning. Filed before your unauthorized action was taken." "But who even activated it?" she asked, voice getting desperate. Long pause, heavy enough to change the air pressure in the room. Finally, Drew leaned back in his chair. "The man you tried to delete from the payroll," he said simply. At exactly 3 p.m., the conference room door opened. I walked in wearing the same navy blue suit I'd worn to 1,000 business meetings over the years. Not flashy, not expensive, just professional. The kind of presence that doesn't need announcements or fanfare. I walked straight to the head of the table and set my leather folder down in front of the chair Oliver hadn't touched since this whole mess started. I didn't sit down. I opened the folder and read, voice steady, no drama, just business. As majority shareholder, I formally request a binding vote to rescind all executive appointments made in the past 48 hours, pending proper shareholder review and board authorization. The words landed like contract terms nobody wanted to verify. Drew cleared his throat. Motion received and entered into the record for immediate consideration. Complete silence. Oliver didn't speak, didn't even raise his head. Just sat there, finally understanding the mistake he'd made by not reading the fine print of his own company's founding documents. Brooke looked like her whole world was crashing down around her. Her hands, so confident when she'd signed my termination notice that morning, were shaking around her notebook. Reid Thompson confirmed the legal filing. Clause 17C empowers the majority shareholder to override interim executive decisions pending proper board authorization. The vote may proceed. Motion is active, Drew announced. Board will reconvene privately for formal confirmation. Results by close of business. I'll wait, I said. Not a request, not a threat, just a fact. Someone asked quietly, "Would you like to take the chair?" I looked at the empty seat at the head of the table, then back at the room. "No," I said. "I'll stand. Because when you actually own something, you don't need permission to be there." The room cleared slowly, like people leaving a funeral. No conversations, no networking, just quiet chair scrapes and the sound of people who suddenly realized they'd been playing a game where they didn't know the real rules. Oliver hung back, pretending to review his notes, but mostly just avoiding what he knew was coming. When the door finally closed behind the last board member, he looked up. "Can we talk privately?" he asked. I nodded and walked to the small side room off the main conference area. He followed, every step weighted with 15 years of decisions he was finally understanding. We sat across from each other at a small table. For a minute, neither of us said anything. Just the quiet hum of the building and the distant sound of office life, continuing like nothing had changed. "I don't know what to say," he finally admitted. "You don't need to say anything," I told him. "You need to choose." I opened my folder one last time and slid 2 documents across the table. No drama, just options. Left page, buyout proposal. My 51% stake at fair market value minus $92 million. Clean exit. No lawsuits, no complications. He could keep the company name, the building, What was left of the operation, right page, reorganization terms. I stay as majority owner and executive chairman. Complete management overhaul. Department by department review. No more family appointments, no more ceremonial positions. I run the company the way it should have been run all along. Oliver stared at both documents like they were written in a foreign language. I need time to think, he said. You had 23 years to think, I replied. Time's up. His eyes came up to meet mine. There was no anger in my voice. No spite. Just the calm certainty of a man who'd been preparing for this conversation for a very long time. I never meant for it to happen this way, he said. Then you should have read what you signed. That hit him hard because it was true. Every contract, every agreement, every shareholder document, his signature was on all of them. He just never bothered to understand what he was agreeing to. He reached for the buyout document, hand shaking slightly. You'd really walk away from everything you built? I'd sell what I built to someone who doesn't understand what they're buying, I said, but I won't watch it fall apart under people who think experience doesn't matter. He set the paper back down, and if I choose the other option, then you'll learn what it's like to work for someone else in the company you founded. Silence stretched between us. Outside, I could hear phones ringing, conversations in hallways, the normal sounds of a business that would keep running no matter which choice he made. How long do I have? He asked. Board meeting reconvenes in 2 hours. You'll have an answer by then. I stood up, leaving both documents on the table. One more thing, Oliver. He looked up. When Brooke walked into my office this morning and fired me, I said, voice quiet and steady. She didn't make a mistake. She made a choice. She chose to treat me like I didn't matter. Like 23 years of loyalty and hard work could be erased with a signature from someone who'd been here 23 minutes. I walked to the door, then turned back. That's the choice that got you here. Not bad luck, not a misunderstanding. A choice to let someone destroy what we built together because she had the right last name. The next morning felt different. Not because the building had changed, but because everyone finally knew who was actually running it. No announcement, no company-wide email, just a simple calendar update. Leadership transition meeting, all department heads, 9 a.m. Oliver's resignation went out at 8:45. Standard corporate language about pursuing new opportunities and confidence in the company's future. Nobody replied to it. Brooke never made it to the building. Her access badge was deactivated at 6 a.m., along with her email account and company phone. Security met her in the parking garage, with a box containing her personal items, a coffee mug, a small plant, and the framed MBA diploma she'd brought on her first day. The new management team gathered at 900 sharp. Not a collection of family friends and MBA credentials, but people who understood the difference between having a title and earning it. I walked in last and took the chair at the head of the table. This time, I sat down. We started with basics, departmental reviews, budget analysis, contract assessments. Nothing flashy, just the careful work of people who knew how to run a business without needing to prove anything to anyone. Later that morning, I walked the same hallway I'd been escorted down 24 hours earlier. Same tiles, same walls, same scuffed corner where delivery carts always got stuck. But this time, people nodded when they saw me, opened doors, made space. I stopped by IT. Mason Cooper was at his desk, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in months. All systems back to normal, he said. Full administrative access restored across the board. Good, I said. Make sure the new security protocols are in place by end of week. I kept walking. Past compliance, where they'd already removed the outdated organizational chart. Past the break room, where people were actually taking breaks instead of worrying about the next management crisis. Past the reception desk where I'd handed over my badge just 1 day ago. This time I stopped. I'll need new ID credentials, I told the receptionist. Executive level access. Already prepared, Mr. Parker. She smiled, handing me a card with my name and new title, Executive Chairman. I walked outside into the Ohio morning crisp and clear. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. How did it go? I typed back. I'm still here. She responded immediately. Good. Come home for lunch. We need to talk about what comes next. What comes next? For 23 years, I'd been building toward this moment. Now that it was here, I realized the real work was just beginning. Not just running a company, but rebuilding trust. Not just making profits, but making sure the people who'd stuck with me through all of this knew their loyalty meant something. I put the phone away and looked back at the building. My building now. Built on 23 years of getting to work early, staying late, fixing problems other people created, and never getting the credit I deserved. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting everything. They teach you to climb the corporate ladder. Nobody mentions you can buy the building instead. In business, loyalty without ownership is just expensive charity. Smart people build equity while others collect paychecks.